Father, and the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Most of us don't know the story of the cross being our banner, our flag. You know, when you do the Pledge of Allegiance, you say, I pledge the allegiance to... The flag of the United States. So, what's the flag of the kingdom of Christ? Thank you. Very true. It is his flag. It's his banner. Wherever the cross is planted, you find a church with a cross on top of it. That's where Christ reigns. He's king over there. He's king over here. And that's how we know that we have the cross. And notice how we have the cross on the top of everything, very high up. So the story goes like this. After many emperors of the Roman Empire, kings, evil ones, really hated the Christians and killed them. We have multiple martyrs from the time of the last emperor who killed Christians, Diocletian. You have those two martyrs there, St. George and St. Mina. They were killed in the time of Diocletian. The Roman Empire took over the world, was all the world, and they divided the empire into two halves, the East and the West. The East had their capital in Antioch, Syria. The West had their capital in Rome, in Europe. In the East was a king, his name was Diocletian. And thanks to Diocletian, we have our Synaxarium. If Diocletian didn't reign, we would not, as Christians in Egypt, have martyrs. So there was too many people that was killed during Diocletian. One of the stories that really touches me the most is whole cities. He would go somewhere, and one of them is my favorite city, is Esna. Esna is in Upper Egypt, was all Christian. And the governor of Egypt was ordered by the emperor to eradicate this city if they don't turn away from worshiping Christ. So the soldiers came there with their knives and swords, and they threatened them. And they had a bishop, who was a very, very good bishop. And bishop, his name was, I think it was Bedaba or Basantaos, I forgot which one of them. And he had a prayer, he knew about it. And he had all his people in a big church, and they prayed the liturgy together. And after the liturgy, they went and met the soldiers, who asked them to forsake the worship of Christ and start worshiping Diocletian. If you didn't worship the emperor, you're a traitor. And to maybe get a statue or something, and they would offer incense to it and bow down and stuff like that, that they refused. So what happened? That day, they killed every single one in the city. Every single one in the city. And they said in the story, if you go to Esna, as I have gone many times, I'd like to visit that city, you find 3 surface tombs made with mud. Like people are buried there, 3. It's in the middle of the market, in the center of the city of Esna. And you ask, what is this? And they say, this is the shrine where the 3 farmers is buried. So this is actually a real thing. The 3 farmers were not in the city. They were gone to do something in their land. And then when they came back, found the whole city was killed. They ran after the soldiers, said, you forgot about us. What happened? And the soldiers said, we're tired of killing. We are just sick and tired today. We killed thousands of people. I don't think even our swords will be able to cut anything. So what did they say? Here are our axes. Take our axes and cut our heads right here. And they did. So they were buried there where they found them. Now, today when you go to Esna, to this city, you cross a little creek. And then after you cross the creek, those who know about this place, they start taking off their shoes. Because when you cross that creek, on the other side of the creek, you find the places, the monastery of the martyrs, where the places where the dirt of the ground was covered with the blood of the martyrs. So people feel very uncomfortable walking on it with their shoes. They're going into a holy place. That's Esna. There's another city called Akhmim, had the same thing. Many cities in Egypt had gone through this. During Diocletian, we're talking about 3rd century, maybe beginning of the 4th century. until a king who rose up from Europe, and the father of this king, was not a Christian, but he married a Christian woman. Her name was Helen. And they got a child, and they named him Constantine. The mother, Helen, was a very, very holy woman. She was a woman of prayer. And the father taught his child all kinds of, sword fighting, horse riding, to make him a very great man. He was not a king. Then Helen brought up her son, and he saw her praying. He saw her going to the church, taking communion. But the father was not. He was a pagan person. The son loved the way of his mother, but he grew up. Get baptized. And then one day, he had a big army. And one day he decided to take over Rome, to conquer one of the two evil kings. His name is Maximian. He wanted to go over to Italy and cross the Tiber River and get Maximian out of his throne and take over the kingdom. On his way, and he was thinking about how he's going to do this, at night he saw a vision and some people say it was actually when he was awake. There was a sign in the sky, it was a sign of the cross. And a voice told him, or someone told him, use this sign and you will have victory. Use this sign and you will have victory, you will conquer. And he did. What he did, he put on the flag of his, that's why we say it's a banner, the flag of his battle, his banner as a king. You know how in the old times, until today, you get the banner, the flag of the country when you fight, and you put it where you get the land. So the flag that he had was the cross. His cross was a different cross than the one we know. It's called the Kiro. Had an X sign, which is Latin for Christus, or Christ. And then the rho is like a P. So it's a P and an X. And this was the sign of the cross for many, many times, many years. And the P, which is the rho, means Rexum, means king. Christ the king. They call it the Kiro. And he took it on his flags, and they went. And they said, one of the things that happened, the Christians who were in Rome saw it in the army. They left the army of Maximian, joined him, and they entered the river. They crossed the river of Tiber and then went into Rome. And they, that day, took off Maximian of his throne and they killed him. So Constantine was the king in the Western Empire. After that, he talked to Diocletian and got him off the throne, and Diocletian actually watched his throne being taken over by Constantine, becoming the one king over the two empires, or the two kingdoms. And it began what we call the kingdom of Byzantium, which is, and he moved his capital from Rome to Turkey now, Constantinople, Istanbul. So Constantine later, his mother spoke to him and said, now you're the king. So in 312 AD, he made a decree that no Christian should be persecuted. Actually, nobody will be persecuted for their religion. Everyone can pray to their God as they want. And this is called the decree, or the decree of Milan, or edict of Milan, because it's made in Milan, and then in Italy, and then everybody very excited. That's why you hear it today in the song. When this decree, when this edict came to Alexandria, everybody was excited. Now we don't have to fear soldiers coming from the emperor killing us anymore. Not only that, he declared later Christianity to be the religion of the empire. Something Daniel the prophet had said about, talked about, maybe, so 500 plus 300, 800 years earlier. Daniel said the kingdom of Christ will fill the earth, and this is the time of Constantine. It began like that. His mother, Helena, she told Constantine, I have a desire to go to the Holy Land and search for the physical cross of Christ. Will she find it? Is that easy? But I guess she is the empress, and she has the means and the time. She left the capital, left her son, and went with a group of soldiers to the Holy Land. And they said, some stories said that she wanted to find the cross as a sign, because she was grieved that her son has gone into a lot of killing and, blood on his hand. So she wanted to see if God will forgive her son for that. And she told him, if I find the cross, that's a good sign that God will forgive you, my son, and forgive me too, for not baptizing you earlier. And then she looked, and she couldn't find it. She looked and looked and looked and looked, and nobody could find it, where it is. Until one day when she was there about to leave and go home and say, well, it seems like God does not forgive us, is not forgiving us about what you have done. She was about to leave. And then at night there was a storm, and the storm hit a temple, a Roman temple of one of their gods. And then once it is hit, it fell. And under it there was a burial place not for people. It was a burial place for the crosses. They found 3 crosses over there, big, huge stuff, big beams of wood. And then they said, so they brought the Helena at night, and they dug there, and they brought the 3 crosses. And it was before that, it was a heap of trash. The Jews wanted to cover this because it was a big problem for them. Crosses were not something appreciated by the Jews, so they put all the trash on them. They brought the 3 crosses, 3 beams, and they didn't know which one is it. So the prayer of Saint Helena uncovered the places with the crosses, but they don't know which one is it. And they said that day there was a dead man, and then one of the elders of the church told the queen, the true cross of Christ will bring life. So there was a dead man going by, and they said, let's try. And they brought the first cross and put it on the dead man, or put the dead man on it. Nothing happened. The second, nothing happened. The third one, the man became alive, came back to life. So they made a big celebration, and they were assured this is the real piece of the cross that Christ died on. Now, when that happened, she sent her son, and let's do a church. And they made a church for a holy cross, put the wood of the cross in it. Big piece of wood that was there. And then maybe they took little pieces from it to be everywhere. And then we have a little piece here. If you want, after liturgy, you can take a blessing from its very tiny, 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 tiny splinter. Very tiny. You can see it. Many people have it, actually. So what happened after that in history? That one day they said the king of Persia came and invaded the Holy Land. And he looked, and there was this box with light coming out of it. And he didn't know what it was. He thought it would be something very precious. He stretched his hand into the box to touch it. They said his hand was burned. And then the 2 deacons who were standing by said, Your Majesty cannot do this. This is only touchable by Christians. Because you're not Christians, you don't believe, you cannot touch this. And he said, how about you bring it with you, and I'll take it back to my land. So he took the 2 deacons and gave them a lot of money. And they took it out of the church, went to Persia, and there he buried it in his own palace until he finds a way to understand it or deal with it. And he said that he asked them to dig a hole, big hole, and he killed them right there so that nobody knows where the cross is. Who saw this was a little girl, a slave girl, a Christian girl in his palace. Later on, when King Hercules, that's the real one, that's the real Hercules of Byzantium king, the one of the descendants of Constantine, conquered Persia. The girl told him, she was now an older teenager, and she said, Your Majesty, there is a box of where the cross is. It's here. It's buried in the king's palace. So he took it with him and bring it back to Jerusalem. That day, the king was wearing his crown, going through the cross. He's carrying the big beam of cross, and then going through the door. He couldn't. And then every time he comes, it's not going. He turns this way, it's not coming. So the deacons or the bishop there said to him, Maybe your majesty are wearing a crown. Your Lord carried this wood with no crowns. He had a crown of thorn on him. Maybe you should take off your crown. And he did. And the beam went right through the door. So these are the stories of the cross. And then this became a celebration. That's why we celebrate it every year. And the same time, we have two times. One time is most probably when the church was erected, the first time, when Queen Helena did it. And the second time when the cross was brought back by King Hercules or Hercule back to Jerusalem. And those two feasts we keep. And so for us the cross is three things. Just remember that. The real wood of the cross, the physical wood of the cross, if you can get a piece, it's a very great blessing. But if not, we have the other two things. It's a way of life. When Jesus, if you want to be my disciple, carry your cross every day. What does that mean? Carry some suffering. Let some sadness come to you. It's okay. If it is for Christ, that's a great blessing. If you're standing your ground and not yielding to peer pressure, you're not hurting when you're hurt, you're not cussing when you're cussed, that's carrying the cross. When you are treated badly and you stand your ground and be nice, that's carrying a cross. When you're not yielding to peer pressure and you feel the weight of it, you feel the heaviness that everybody else is doing it and the only one sticking out like a sore thumb, that's a cross. When you are given a chore that you think, oh, what about my sister or brother? They're not getting the chore. Why me? That's a cross. Think about all these little crosses that Jesus is asking us to carry as his disciples. What's the second thing? The sign. Jesus talked about it. He said, when he comes again, the sign of the cross will be in heaven. He said that. For sure it will be. The last thing that will appear in heaven after the sun darkens and the moon darkens and everything darkens, one sign will shine out the most, and it will be the cross in heaven. Once you see that sign, he said, lift up your heads. Meaning what? Your king is coming to save you. He's here. If that is the case, then we look out for the sign of the cross. And that's why we keep it everywhere. Because we remind ourselves that he's coming again with his sign of victory. Why is it a sign of victory? Because he conquered the devil through it. The devil, those of us who watched the movie about the demons, the devil said we were tricked by thinking he's a regular man. And we put him on the cross and we thought we're going to get rid of him. It turned out to be our biggest defeat. That this defeated the devil. And who made the cross? Who inspired the making of the cross? Yes, the devil himself. He inspired the Romans to torture people and not let them die quickly. And then Jesus took that one highest, most difficult torture instrument ever invented in history and made it his own sign. What does that mean? He's teasing the devil. There's no more tease than that. I conquered you by your own way and it became my sign. I'm going to make it my sign. And what is that? Because all of us, we need it, right? When you say a bad word, when you do a bad thing, when you hurt someone's feeling, when you disobey and dishonor your parents, all of it will coming to him. Every one of us had a little bit to add to the cross of Christ. We all shared in that. Not the Jews, not even the devil. I'm going to tell you, we made Jesus to go to the cross. Every one of us. And he accepted it. By the way, he wanted everybody to know about it, but he's not holding us and say, he doesn't really hold us guilty because we had caused his suffering and pain. And as a mother, like, the mother will never tell you how much pain she had during your delivery, unless you really, get her. But any mother, you don't know how much labor, pain, and suffering you caused your mothers, and they will not talk about it because they love you. And same thing, Jesus will not talk to us about his suffering and pain because he loves us. But we do. All of us cause him, including myself, cause him suffering. And think about that. We caused him some suffering. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and the Holy Spirit.